Welcome to the Whole Story podcast. This podcast series is focused on inspiring sustainability in agriculture, using the framework of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, also known as the SDGs. Each week, our guests are invited to share their story and leave us with some practical tips for sustainability on farms. I'm Becks Smith, founder of The Whole Story, a B Corp certified social enterprise inspiring, facilitating and articulating holistic sustainability in agriculture. And this podcast has been brought to life in partnership with the incredible team at FMG, who are passionate about partnering with organisations like The Whole Story, so together we can support rural New Zealand. So whatever you're doing while listening to this episode, thanks for choosing us. The best way you can support our mahi is to follow and share the show on whatever app you're listening on, and I hope this episode leaves you inspired and excited about the bigger picture of sustainability in agriculture. Today on the Whole Story podcast, I am joined by Alexis Wadworth, one half, or third I should say, of the team down at Bear Hill Farming in Central Southland. I say third as Nick and Alexis's 2-year-old daughter Addison is just as involved and valued as a team member as each of them are, and 6th generation of their family to be working on the farm. Bear Hill is a sheep and beef property running almost 8,000 stock units with a significant portion of ineffective land area. With farming heritage and a banking background, Alexis has brought a significant skill set into the farming team. But likewise, engineer Nick is pretty handy to have around too. They are passionate about being responsible land stewards and building a sustainable farming business, creating an environment that future generations can thrive in. But not doing this alone, ensuring they are growing alongside their community, valuing partnerships within the business, and holding space for their own values and interests, alongside their wishes for quality time together as a family. Nick and Alexis were 2023 finalists in the Balanced Farm Environment Awards and worthy recipients of the Norwood Farming Efficiency Award. I can't wait for you to listen to this episode, as Alexis shares with us the unique challenges faced by a property where under half of the total land area is effective hectares. They're changing stock policies to help manage this, and learn about the Japanese lean management principle of Kaizen, which is pivotal to their business. So welcome along today, everybody. Today we have joining us Alexis Wadworth. Welcome, Alexis.
Hi, Becks.
Could you please tell us a little bit about your farming business, who you are, where you're farming, and what you're farming?
Yeah, sure. My husband and I are farming in Central Southland alongside our 2-year-old daughter, Addison. We are in a 2,000 hectare sheep and beef property located in the Otapiri Gorge. The property is actually quite unique. It is roughly about 800 hectares effective, and so there's quite a significant ineffective area there, and that is made up of a combination of tussock, large amounts of forestry, scrub, gorse and broom, and a small amount of forestry. So we're running just under 8,000 sheep and beef stock units here, predominantly breeding, with finishing a portion of our lambs, running a Hereford breeding herd, and we have a spring and an autumn calving herd, and our sheep flock is traditionally Rondale, but in the process of converting to Wiltshires, which is an exciting change for us. And yeah, just I guess as most people located in isolated rural communities are, pretty involved in, industry, sporting and community initiatives when and as we can. Yeah,
it's definitely a diverse farming operation and so unique in that low number of effective hectares versus total land area. There must be quite a juggling act, managing all those different diverse kind of operations on the farm and also the diverse land uses.
Yeah, very much so. Lots of opportunity, obviously, but we sort of came onto this property at a time where Nick's parents had sort of come to the end of a huge amount of development. And so for the last wee while, our focus has been on getting the effective areas humming while still not losing control of, say, the gorse and broom blocks, and obviously looking after the natives. So there's some really cool opportunities in there, but we're probably only just getting our teeth stuck into some of the big stuff to do with that ineffective area, and then obviously juggling our stock policy to try and manage some of that ineffective stuff. So, the Wiltshires will provide a good opportunity to get into some of the scrubbier blocks that we haven't been able to with wool on a sheep, and also the 2 different calving times of the year mean that our cows get to go off the platform, if you like, into the scrub and do some work for us in there too. So just trying to change policies a bit to get the stock to work for us, really, and make the most of that ineffective area.
Yeah, alongside managing a young family, head shepherd Addison, and all of the other things that I know both of you do in your community and life outside of work. So well done for that. That's no small feat.
Good to be busy, right?
Yeah, it is. And I think it's really interesting talking about that, sort of the long-term gain in what you're doing. You're changing the stock policies, trying to manage what's happening now, but also setting things up and preparing things for that future. Which I guess leads into the next question. What does sustainability mean to you, Alexis?
Yeah, I've given quite a bit of thought to this question, actually, Becks. I came up with 2 key elements of what it means to me. So firstly, stewardship is actually one of our business values. So with that, we define stewardship in a way of obviously having pride and respect for the land. That's hugely important. But so is contributing to the community and developing people. So being stewards in a whole lot of different facets. And then the other side of the sustainability aspect for us is making sure we're farming in a way that's sustainable for future generations. So are we leaving a financially viable business that can withstand future challenges? Are we operating in a way that's sustainable to the land and environment, soils, plants, animals? And are we being sustainable for us as people? Like, we really want to be able to, be playing touch on the lawn with our grandkids at Christmas in the future. So there's a few different kind of angles to think about that. But that's kind of how I would describe sustainability for us.
And I think that's such a nice all-encompassing view on sustainability, because you've incorporated kind of the corporate model or the traditional model of sustainability, but you've made it meaningful to you and connect with actually how you guys want to live and the values you hold. Interesting you touch on farm business values there. I wonder if you could share with us the process you went through to actually develop your farm business values and what the other farm business values are.
Yeah, cool. So we've got 3 values. Talked about stewardship being one. Another one is courage. So thinking outside the box, taking a few risks, doing the homework, making them educated risks, but doing things a little bit different. And the last one is kaizen, which is a Japanese term meaning improving efficiency. And it's something that is quite innate to both of us, me coming out of a banking sector where you want to be operating as efficiently as you can. And Nick's background as an engineer, so he's always looking at new and improved ways to do things. So they're our 3 values. How we came to land on those 3, we completed a 12-month business farming course a couple of years ago now. It was designed for couples, so it took us a long time to really nail down those. But the challenges that was set in front of us was finding values that relate to you as people, not just you as farmers. So is it a value that you can take into coaching a sporting team, or if you owned a hairdressing business or whatever, it would still be relevant. So we often fall back on those values actually now, and it's been a really, really big help for guiding decisions. Yeah.
It's definitely something that when I work through with some of the clients with the whole story, it's one of the first things we do. And quite often it's amazing how many businesses within the agri sector haven't actually set out their farm business values. And I think exactly that. It kind of becomes your point of grounding when you have to make decisions or in tough times. You can actually go back to your values and say, actually, what are the things that drive us? What are the non-negotiables? What is it that we hold firmly in our business? And it kind of provides, I guess, a guiding light, doesn't it? So it's one of those really interesting processes to go through with farming businesses, is actually, what are your business values and what are your people values? What is it that's really important to you, and getting alignment around a farming team?
Yeah.
It's a really interesting process to go through, because quite often people at first are like, oh, I don't know, this is a little bit soft and fluffy. But then when you hear exactly what you've just articulated there, is how important and how useful those values are when you're going through the process of running a business day to day, but also that long-term strategic thinking piece.
Yeah, massive. And not only on farm, like it's come up quite a bit when we're making decisions of spending time off farm too. If there's different governance or committee roles is it the right fit for us personally? And that's both as individuals and as a couple, and where are we spending our time? Yeah.
Yeah, I think because that's such a big aspect of living in a small, isolated rural community is that there's a lot of roles out there that need to be filled. And I think making sure that you're actually filling roles that align with your values, because you end up spending quite a lot of voluntary time in these positions. So it's important that they actually align with you as people and you as a business. And so you touched on there a little bit your banking background. So I wonder if you could tell us your journey to get to where you are now.
Yeah, cool. So I'm born and bred from farming stocks in the Naki. Yeah, have subconsciously become another Taranaki import to Southland. But the bits in between, so I went to boarding school in New Plymouth and then made the journey to Lincoln and did a BCom Ag. That's also where I met Nick. So I started my banking career out of uni as a graduate. At the same time, Nick spent some time working in Canada amongst other roles. So I continued my banking career, moving back to Southland about when Nick came home for a role that I had been hanging out for. And then, long story short, spent close to 10 years in the banking sector in a variety of agri-banking positions, and then moving into some leadership roles within the Otago Southland team. So that's sort of my banking career. And then alongside that, a variety of governance and community leadership roles have popped in and out, as it does with life, as well as being quite involved in netball locally and specifically coaching umpires. So in 2016, Nick and I started leasing this property, which is Nick's family farm. So Addison will be sixth generation here. And then in 2020, we were lucky enough to have the opportunity to purchase the property of Nick's family. And then in 2021, we welcomed our wee girl Addison. From then on, I decided to take a step away from off-farm employment and return to full-time work on farm, which is something we had probably been waiting a little bit longer than we needed to in hindsight, but yeah, it's been our dream to farm together, and so it's really cool that we're finally able to do that.
Yeah, and that's such an important thing, I think, to note there as well. Anyone who follows you on Instagram will notice how involved both you and Addison are on farm, and how it's a really great dynamic to see that both of you take Addison out on your daily jobs and you share the load with parenting and farming in a really beautiful harmony. It's something that you share really openly, and it's really wonderful to see such an integrated family farming system.
Thanks, Becks. That's really nice.
And cool to know all about your banking background as well. I think it's obviously provided you with such a transferable skill set into the farming business and what you can bring to that side of things as well. I think we underestimate sometimes how much transferable skills women bring into farming businesses. So you'll definitely be a very handy skill set to have on farm.
Hope so.
And also great to see the transition from Taranaki to the South Island. Definitely chose the better island coming south.
Yes.
I did the same. So I'm a North Islander who's come south as well.
It's not half bad, is it? Although I think I've probably got another at least 10 or 15 years before I'm considered somewhat local, but I'll buy my time.
I can relate to you there. So just to break it up a little bit then, I wonder if you could share with us your funniest story relating to farming or agriculture.
Oh my gosh, this was such a hard question. And yeah, obviously there's been plenty of blonde moments throughout my farming career, as you could imagine. But something that pops to mind every year about this time in the lead up to Kids Pets Day is when we were younger, through our primary school years, we would, take your calves on adventures for leading practice. And one spot we would always take them to was our grandparents' front lawn, and the lawn was terraced with steps in between each terrace. And so we thought it was a great fun to teach our calves to lead up and down the stairs, only to discover that once they entered the herd, our parents inherited a good lineup of very capable pit walkers. So poor mum and dad having all these pet calves that like to walk down into the pit to say hello. So just a message to parents out there with kids taking their calves on adventures, maybe just avoid steps.
Oh, that's such a great story. Yes, we have had the pet day selections that have gone on in our house. I think we're December pet day, so we're quite a late one here. But the kids have already decided what they're taking, who they're taking, what they're going to teach them to do in the meantime. So Yeah, starting
How
training
exciting.
early this year because last year we didn't put in any effort or training, and we were the people who had the crazy runaway lambs and wayward pets last year. So definitely going to be a little bit more onto it this year.
Yep, nice.
You'll be looking forward to those days with Addison when she gets to pet daytime.
Definitely, she enjoys having pet lambs at the moment and all the other babies running around. So, I have no doubt she'll hit pet day full noise.
Did you know that the whole story was a certified B Corp? Well, we are, but what does that mean? B Corps are businesses that are committed to balancing purpose and profit as a means of being a force for good in the world. But that commitment goes beyond good intentions. The truth is, any business can claim to be sustainable or socially responsible. However, without validation, they're just words. So B Corp certification gives them meaning. It provides visibility into the things that we're doing and the impact that we're having. B Corp certification is a demanding process that includes the B Impact Assessment that evaluates how our operations and business models impact workers, the community, the environment, and customers. Unlike other certifications, B Corp certification doesn't just evaluate a product, process, or service, it measures the company's entire social and environmental impact. It's the only certification program of its kind, and it uses rigorous assessment framework that lends credibility to companies that achieve it. It gives confidence to the growing number of customers that want to buy and work with purpose-driven brands. So when you're next making a purchasing decision or a brand partnership decision, look for the B in the circle. That way you can know with certainty that the organisation you're dealing with is committed to being a force for good in the world. And so bringing it back to sustainability then, what have been some of the low-hanging fruit with regards to sustainability initiatives in your farming business?
Yeah, so I guess the quick wins for us, a couple that spring to mind. One is definitely the use of technologies, and there's a few different things that have stuck out for us, in particular the use of a drone. So we've been using a drone for the last 5 years, mostly to complete lambing bait. We have a fairly hands-off approach to lambing here with minimal shepherding. However, we were still spending hours driving around picking up cast ewes every day. So being able to fly the drone to look for casts and then just drive directly to that ewe that's in trouble, saved us so much time. You know, we can check 1,000 ewes in half an hour very easily. It saves so much fuel. The first year we started using a drone, we thought we were in need of replacing a bike. We ended up actually getting another season out of a bike just because we weren't running around as much. And the best part, it hasn't interfered with our lambing performance at all. You know, and I think actually in hindsight, there's a whole lot of things that we didn't expect to happen. When we fly the drone up just prior to, say, a storm coming in, you'll notice all the ewes have tucked their lambs away in under tussocks and in sheltered spots and are out grazing. And if we were driving through the middle of a paddock at that time, we obviously would have disturbed those lambs and scattered the ewes. So really nice just to be able to leave them to their own devices. Yeah, so that's definitely been one of probably the quickest wins. The other technology, obviously, bringing that in as and when we can, whether that be data recording software, proof of placement, GPS software, and, weigh scales and so on. And we've also created a rubbish policy here. So a few years ago, we cleared the contents of an old dump, and that was taken away off farm to an appropriate dump site. Now, the only thing that goes on the whole here is either biodegradable or is fit for burning safely. Everything else goes off farm in some recycling way. So whether that be baled wrap through plastic or, using ag recovery, household recycling goes into town to the recycling centre, scrap metal away, all of that sort of stuff. So with the idea that, we don't want our great grandkids digging up our rubbish. Yeah, and then I guess just another thought around the quick wins. We are a little bit nerdy in that we like to see data and figures. So just upping the testing and analysis in certain areas. So that might be, more regular fecal egg counts ahead of drenching, herbage tests as well as soil tests ahead of fertiliser and vaccination decisions, testing water quality, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't manage what you don't measure, right? So getting that data in and then being more efficient with your inputs as a result. It's actually amazing the gains you can make there. But also really interested to hear more about your drone use. Obviously, I don't know if you can see behind me. Mine's sitting right behind me.
Nice.
But I think for other people, talking about the practicality of actually doing that, because I think what you talk about there, cast use, is actually one of the biggest reasons that we've got the drone on farm as well. But it's interesting to hear from a practicality point of view how you actually do that, especially on a scale like yours.
Yeah, so we can't do it from, sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
Our farm's definitely not flat enough and is obviously like a bit more expensive than the drone would allow unless we spend a lot of money. So we drive to a couple of vantage points, and depending on, where the sheep are lambing, got a couple of good spots. And no, we don't tend to fly a predetermined route. We just fly it while we're standing there, I guess because we sort of know the hot spots in the paddock. And then, we can fly fairly high and then drop down a bit lower if there's anything that we're like, oh, is she in trouble? Is she not? If I fly closer to her, she might just sit up, or, maybe I need to drive to her and see what's going on over there. The half an hour sort of fly time is a good time frame for the battery life as well. So we have a couple of batteries charged, ready to go. So we can fly over from one vantage point, bring it back down, turn it off, change the battery, and then drive to somewhere and put the drone up again and repeat. Through the really busy times, we might have to come inside and charge battery over lunchtime or whatever, but typically one flight a day is enough. And then the other part I didn't really talk about, but the drone's been really handy for mustering cattle out of the scrub. So some of our scrub is very hard. We can't drive through it, and it's too tall if you're walking through to see where the cows are hiding. So it's quite good. We fly the drone up, get them at least moving, helps the dogs to see where they are too. And then we can, a combination of using the drone and the dogs, get them out of the scrub. Yeah. And, if it's doing a bit of a count up at the gate or whatever, and then going back to find more if you have to, just makes it significantly more efficient getting the cows out of the scrub, because those Herefords are very good at hiding. Yeah. I mean, you could use it for finding water leaks, which would probably be a bit more obvious on a landscape like yours, Becks, than ours here. It's quite hard to get things dry enough in Southland sometimes to find the water leaks. There would be a lot of other things. We used it in redesigning our cattle yards recently. Could fly it up, take a photo, and then use that photo to design the new yards. Yeah, so lots of things like that.
Yeah, I can only see the list of applications growing for drone use in agriculture. Like, we've only just got ours, and I'm just noticing already just so many opportunities. It's amazing to hear that efficiency. And so, something I hope a lot of our listeners will explore a bit further, because, I can definitely see the wind there.
Yeah.
So, next question then, what's exciting you about your farming business over the next 5 years?
Yeah, cool. So we touched on our values, but I guess continuing to implement those and alongside our purpose into short and long-term plans, like that's really exciting and so rewarding, seeing the plans that are already underway coming to fruition and the side benefits of some of those changes that we're making that we didn't expect to see. So an example is when we first purchased our direct drill, we ran the numbers on, the payback period of the drill based on reducing costs of the tractor, saving time, et cetera. But what we didn't really appreciate is combining that with multi-species crops, some of the benefits we, just wouldn't have dreamt of, like the massive improvements to soil structure we've seen, the competitive yields from the crops, the multi-grazing opportunities from those crops, reducing inputs, worm lice, animal health benefits. So I'm really excited to see some of these other things we've got in the longer term plans, and what side benefits are going to come from those that we aren't expecting. That's really cool. Yeah, and then I guess just also building on our own knowledge and learning new things, creating new connections, building on existing relationships, just, using all those things in the best way to set our business up to be as robust and prepared for the future as we can, and doing alongside our community. It's really exciting.
Yeah, and it's really interesting you talk about those side benefits, because those are really hard to model, right? Because you don't see them coming. So you can't actually put those into modeling software or try and figure that out beforehand. And so some of these situations, it's actually amazing what you see happen once you take the initiative based on that initial work, all the other benefits that come along with that you just weren't expecting. So thank you so much for sharing that, because I think it's something we always tend to lean back on, a model or what we've kind of put in a plan is going to be the outputs. But actually, once you start going down that path, you never know what you might come across along the way and the other benefits you might find. So it's having that courage to step out and wait and see what happens.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Interesting as well, I guess, all of the different initiatives you've got going on at the moment. Have you got many others in those longer term plans? Or at the moment, have you kind of started all of the things and just wanting to consolidate a bit? What stage of that are you at?
Yeah, no, we've always got something on the go. So I guess probably quite topical as far as the sustainability aspect goes. We're in the process of protecting about 300 hectares of our native. And so part of that is involving upping the pest control. So we have quite a major deer and pig problem here. We already do a lot of culling and also have a lot of recreational hunters come out as well as trapping pigs. But we are, alongside our community, really starting to feel the effects of the feral animals around here. So we were fortunate enough to receive a grant from council with some funding towards that pest control, and we're also quite involved in a local catchment group project here looking at the impacts of feral animals and ultimately the control opportunities for the feral animals. And we're also in the process of registering some of that native into the ETS as well. So hopefully that all goes through, but if it doesn't, we'll just, keep looking at ways we can look after that bush because it's a pretty special part of this farm. And then, just soil management, that continues to be a really big one for us. So a combination of stock policies, continuing to tinker with our cropping regimes, our multi-species cropping through winter, and also our annual and perennial pastures that we're putting in, minimising chemical inputs. A lot of that takes a long time to figure out what's going to work best for this farm. But we just keep monitoring things and seeing where they go. And stock policies touched on the conversion to wilt dries. So that's a big one in the process at the moment. We are the second year of crossing wilt dry rams into our flock. So really excited to see what's going to happen in that space. I think there's going to be some really significant benefits for us. Obviously, the wool side of it financially wasn't stacking up, which is a real shame because we absolutely love wool. But for our property, the development opportunities by having a ewe that doesn't need management for veggie matter in her fleece enables us to utilise other parts of this farm that we currently can't, or not to the extent that we would like. So that alongside our autumn and spring calving herds is going to be really quite exciting to see what we can do with those blocks that are currently under development and other blocks that we've got earmarked for development in the future.
Yeah, definitely a topic that is near and dear to my heart. Full disclosure, everybody listening who doesn't know, my sideline gig is as a farmer, we have a Wiltshire stud. So I'm a passionate advocate for shedding sheep and the different role they play in farming. Also a passionate advocate for wool. I think it's a fantastic product, but us, like Nick and Alexis, were just finding that actually on our farm, the wool wasn't stacking up, and there were other reasons for us to convert to shedding sheep. So we've done the same thing a few years ahead of these guys. Alongside having a shedding sheep stud, we've also converted our commercial flock through to shedding as well. And it's really interesting that you speak about the side benefit that I hadn't considered before, the utilisation of the Wiltshire ewe to be able to break in new ground or to graze the areas where high vegetation matter in the wool would be a limiting factor for other breeds, and the Wiltshire is suitable for. So that's really cool to hear, just another use case for the shedding sheep. And I'm excited to see how your guys' journey into that goes over the next few years as well. So it's really great to have other passionate shedding sheepers coming out in the community and being quite vocal about the benefits.
Yeah, and how amazing all the existing owners of shedding sheep flocks been as far as supporting newcomers. It's a pretty cool community of people that have been, we've found so much support, to make the decision, and then, as far as ram selection and things go.
It's a really open sharing community. Like everyone's really open about sharing their journey, and I guess, data, figures, experiences in that transition phase. But yeah, just such a lovely group of people working together with a bit of a common purpose and goal, and supporting each other through the journey. So yeah, I can 100% agree with that, because it's pretty cool to see, and it's only growing. So yeah, hopefully both of us can continue to support people within that community along that journey. And yeah, I mentioned your Instagram account before, but anybody who is interested in following your journey into the shedding sheep transition, then yeah, Bear Hill Farming on Instagram. These guys share so much about their journey and so many images as well of your stock to actually be able to see what happens through that transition process. Thank you so much for sharing all of that as well.
Oh, yeah, no, our pleasure. And again, like we talked about the community, but the Instagram community's been really supportive too. And probably without us knowing it, probably a group of people that we had been missing in our farming community. I'll use that word again, but just the support and positive feedback, and people who have perhaps trialed stuff that we're looking to trial, or are interested in asking us questions in a way that we hadn't probably thought of. Yeah, it's been great.
And so I guess then, talking probably more about farming community and people who have helped you along the way, what has been some of the best farming advice you've ever received?
Yeah, we've been really lucky with so much support, particularly in our early years here with farming advice. But I guess something that I always reflect on is how we were brought up as kids. We were fortunate to grow up in a family where everyone was treated as equal members of the farm team, regardless of whether it was mum or dad or one of us kids. And the valuing of everyone's opinions and capabilities, utilising key professionals to support the business and exposing us kids to those professionals really early on gave us quite a well-rounded view of how the farm and farm business were run. So when Nick and I completed the recent farming business course that I touched on, there was a similar concept introduced, and that helped us get towards our business purpose statement, which is redefining possibilities together. So that together piece is working as a couple, using the wider team and everybody that we surround ourselves with to just think outside the box and challenge the status quo. So yeah, using the whole farm team and valuing everybody's opinion and diversity of thought is something that's really important to us.
Yeah, that's really great. And I think just so important to be exposing your kids to that sort of thinking so early on. It's something I definitely would like to do with our children, making them valued members of the team from a really young age and exposing them to all levels of decision making within the farm business so that they feel empowered when they get to, possibly be in a position of farming themselves if they choose to be, and that they feel that real sense of empowerment and valued within the agricultural sector. Yeah.
Agree. Yeah. And I know we've spent a lot of time trying to understand where each other's skill sets and passions lie as well, and obviously our natural strengths, and then acknowledging those gaps. So do we need to upskill in those areas that perhaps are a skill gap for us, or is it something that we outsource? So yeah, that's also been probably quite a key part of that whole process.
And so this is a bit of a tricky question really, but I guess with the fast pace and never-ending list of change that's constantly coming at us, and it's certainly been felt very heavily at the moment, how do you both prevent overwhelm, burnout, or even apathy and stand up to face that challenge?
It's such a big question, right? And it's, I think, something that deservedly should be asked, especially at the moment. I guess first and foremost, the reality is we choose to do this. We choose to be farmers, and we choose to be farmers with our family. So, if you want to look at this negative or positive, that's your decision, right? I personally think a lot of the change coming to industry right now is not necessarily negative, but where it can become negative is when we haven't done the preparation to manage that impact. So for us, the key is preparing our business for change and remaining open to the opportunities that come our way and align with our values. So I guess, like, for example, we don't know where the emissions pricing is going to land yet, but what we do know as farmers that the consumers are asking, and those we use for services such as banks are going to need to know our emissions information. So, whether that be as a producer of the food or to complete a company's profile as Scope 3 emissions. So for now, we're focusing on preparing our business so that we can clearly evidence when the time comes. Yeah, and I just guess we know that we're creating a product that meets consumer preferences, and we're doing what we can to make sure we're farming in a sustainable way. So I just, really look forward to being rewarded in the future whether that be premiums for our meat or discounts for our interest rates or whatever, just making sure we're really in a position to take advantage of those opportunities as they come.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point because things are uncertain at the moment. But to be honest, we choose a very uncertain environment to operate business in anyway. So in that uncertainty, the key there is to be prepared. And so when we get certainty on the different things that I guess are challenging us, if we're prepared, we can actually take the opportunities with both hands and run with them, as opposed to sitting on our hands, I guess, at the moment and waiting for certainty to arise before we prepare. So it's really important, I think, what you've outlined there is actually people taking the time now to make sure you're as prepared as possible. Because at the end of the day, the details around the certainty don't actually change the direction of travel. And I think that's what you're sort of clearly outlined there, and something I think that it's really mindful of our listeners to take away from this conversation.
Yeah, if we can choose to engage with like-minded and positive people who are thinking along those lines alongside us, that's only going to help us build our knowledge and identify opportunities. So hopefully we can be one of the first few to take advantage of these wins as farmers as they come to light.
Yeah. And I think it's just that bit about that integrity piece, right, as well. Like, we have to produce a product that we're hand on heart proud to put out into the world, and then also go home to our families and go to bed at night and sleep comfortably. So I think if you farm and operate in a way that leaves you with that feeling and then evidence that and prepare yourself to be able to tell that story to the world, then exactly as you say, that's the leading edge and the people who will be prepared to take the opportunities as they arise.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you, Alexis, could share with us what is one take-home sustainability tip that businesses can implement today?
Your business will never grow unless you do. So spend the time investing in yourself, your personal development, create those opportunities for your team as well. Get amongst your community, your catchment groups, or whatever feels right for you, and grow.
Yeah, I love that. We're out there as farmers growing grass, growing crops, growing stock, and we're growing ourselves as well, because we need to be able to do that to really thrive and succeed as sustainable farming businesses in Aotearoa, New Zealand. What a place to end the podcast today. I just want to take the time, Alexis, to thank you so much. We've had a couple of false starts with recording this, with me being unwell, me being on holiday, you having power outages, and we have finally got here, and it's been the most fulfilling conversation. And I know that our audience will gain so many insights from this. So yes, thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your passion for agriculture, and for your strength as a farming business and team leading the charge and navigating sustainability.
Thank you so much, Becks, and thanks for the opportunity. And thank you for this podcast, because that's definitely something I turn to often for, connecting with some positive people and hearing other people's stories. So thank you very much.
This episode blew me away, and it was really hard to narrow it down to 5 goals to highlight, as Nick, Alexis and Addison are really striving for continuous improvement across the board. I think it would be remiss not to start with Bear Hill Farming's purpose statement: redefining possibilities together. Evidence and action of goal number 17, partnerships. Alexis and Nick are passionate about working together as a farming family, as a wider farming team, alongside valued key professionals and within their wider community, to think outside the box, challenging the status quo, and really embracing that diversity of thought and valuing people within the partnership. But the introduction to their farm value of Kaizen, the Japanese lean management concept of efficiency and continual improvement, showcases goal number 9, specifically around the aspect of innovation. This value drives their decision-making. It is informed by extensive data recording and leads to the introduction of other innovation on farm, the use of a drone, alongside other supporting technology, including data recording software, proof of placement, GPS, and integrated weigh scales. One of the other farm values at Bear Hill Farming is stewardship, which aligns with goal number 15, life on land. Pride and respect for the land is evident through their ongoing protection of native bush, large-scale pest control, and the focus on soil health with various stocking policies, multi-species cropping and permanent pastures, and minimising chemical inputs. This also flows into goal number 12, responsible production and consumption, which is evidenced through their farm waste policy, where they have cleaned out and responsibly disposed of the contents of an old waste site on farm, and now the only waste that stays on farm is biodegradable or safe to burn. Bear Hill Farming showed just how possible this is through a combination of solutions, including plasback, ag recovery, scrap metal recovery, and recycling centres. The key point here is they don't have to do this. They choose to do this so that their grandchildren won't have to dig up their rubbish. And last but not least, I want to focus on Nick and Alexis's commitment to goal number 11, sustainable cities and communities. These two demonstrate values-led altruism. They recognise the importance of being active members of their rural communities, but they don't take these decisions lightly. They consider where their values align and where their skill sets and energy could be of best use, to not only ensure that their communities thrive, but that they do too, so that they can continue to play an active part in their communities for many years to come.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Whole Story podcast. We really hope you enjoyed it and are feeling inspired and optimistic about putting sustainability into practice on farm. I have one last request for you before you go. Make sure, whatever platform you're listening to us on, that you hit follow and share the show or episodes with your friends, so that together we can grow our community and inspire sustainability in agriculture in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And thanks again to FMG for partnering with The Whole Story so that we could bring this podcast to life for you all to enjoy. Catch you next time.